friend K4AHO Jim. So this is a shot right now in front of the shack, and we'll be going inside later to view the first room we're going to go into. It will be the maintenance area where I do all the repair work and building of my radio transmitters and so forth. Okay, what you're looking at right now is the heart of the maintenance area, and have all these vacuum tubes right here in boxes and boxed up, and right over here, and this way, these drawers are filled with loose tubes. All these drawers are filled with loose vacuum tubes, I mean to the top, very, very top. And I have just about any tube that you would want to use, being the fact that I have 68 radios to, no, I'll take that back, 64 radios to maintain, which you'll see pretty soon after we get through shooting the video in here. I need all these tubes because they're all vacuum tube radios. And over here is the test bench area. We've got tube testers over on this side. You see tube testers, and also you see various signal generators, capacitance meters, volt-ohm meters, signal generators. I might have said that all at the same time. And down here, of course, there's a workbench where I work on stuff or build stuff, and over here is another test area. I don't know if you can get that okay, John. Might want to move the camera over. But right now, there's some projects here that I could be working on, but I don't want to make a mess right now. So that's about all we got in here to look at, but it certainly is a lot. Alrighty, this is one of the operating positions. I have numerous operating positions with transceivers, transmitters, and receivers. So as you look around here, you're looking at radio history. I'd like to show you at this time my very first novice station. This is what I started out with. And it's a BC348 receiver, World War II vintage, and a lot of hams that started out in their novice licenses back in the 50s will recognize this receiver. Now, this is the transmitter I started out with. This is Johnson Adventurer. It was built in 1953. It came in either factory built or kit form. So I don't know which one this is, but when I bought it secondhand. So it appears to be factory built. And this right here is a Globe Scout Deluxe, which is made by World Radio Laboratories. Of course, you can't get these anymore. You old timers will know what this is. But I restored it completely, and I'm using crystals with it. Let me show you the crystals, and also I use a VXO, which is a variable crystal oscillator. Here's some of the crystals. You get that I use. You just plug it into the crystal socket on the transmitter, and there you go. You're on frequency. With the VXO now, I can swing this crystal or move it about 5 to 6 kcs depending on the activity of the crystal. Of course, this is a more modern receiver made by Radio Shack, and it's the DX150A. I also have a DX160 on the other side, but we'll look at that when we get over to the other side. This is another well-known receiver, a National 183. I also had one of these when I was a general, and this is not the original one. This is one I bought at a ham fest. It's been completely restored by another ham. I didn't do this one, but all the rest of them I have restored on my own. This right here is a Helicrafters. Now this is some history here. This is a Helicrafters HT17 transmitter. It came out after World War II, and it was the very first commercial transmitter that helicopters ever made for the ham market after the war. And it's a very simple transmitter, crystal control, plug-in coils. That's the reason the top lifts up. I had modified it though with an external crystal socket and a meter. The meter was optional back then. It cost you a little bit more money. Of course, things cost a lot of money back in the 40s. When everybody, maybe minimum wage was 75 cents an hour. I'm not sure but it was very low wages at the time, but it was a lot of money too. And it sold for about I think $50 if I'm not mistaken, but it could have been less. But it was a kit. You built it. Like I say, it works. I completely redone the whole thing. But it's not original on the inside, I can tell you that. Original used a 6AG7 oscillator and a 807 amplifier tube with final amplifier, and I took all that out because it was so ancient and old. And I'm not a purist when it comes to restoring something. I don't. I just want it to work. I don't care about having original parts or parts that look original. I just don't care for that. All I want to do is just make it work and make it look good. And I've completely painted the cabinet. It's the original color. Right here, if you bring the camera over, I don't know if you've got this or not. Let's talk about this here. And I wanted to show you if we're still rolling. I got to find the VXO because I mentioned that. Got them right here somewhere. They're hiding in plain sight. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, this is one of my homemade VXOs. Can you get it in the camera? Alright. You simply plug the crystal in here. It's got a variable capacitor inside, and it also has a coil. And it's just a simple inductor capacitance circuit, or LC circuit. It goes into the crystal socket. And I'd rather try it on this one. Let's see. We're on 7046. That crystal is. Let me get this thing tuned. Alright, gotta find the key. Signal. Can you hear that? That's how much it swings. Of course, this crystal is not a good example because it's kind of chirpy. Now, let me get one of my good ones. And like I say, it all depends on the crystal itself, the activity of the crystal. Some cases it improves things, some cases it don't. So it's moved quite a bit. So right now this is a 7031 crystal. I've gone from 7025. Let's go up. Alright, that's 7027. 7028. That's about 7029. So it's going to move And the original fundamental frequency is 7031, so that's doing really good. At 25, from 7025 to 7028. Alright, now there you go. That's a demo of a VXO, and I use it quite a bit. Now if you look up here, this right here you'll recognize as a Heathkit QF1 Q multipliers. Well, I made a regenerated receiver out of one of them. This is the receiver. It's a regen receiver. It has two tubes. It uses a 12AU7 oscillator. You know, it's a dual function tube. It's a dual triode. So it uses one side of the tube as an oscillator or detector oscillator, and the other side is an RF amplifier. Then I have a audio amplifier stage, which is a 6A-K5. I could use a 6A-Q5, but it takes too much filament voltage or current, and my power supply right now will not handle the extra current, so therefore I use a low filament current tube. This is I call it the matching transmitter, and it's a two-stage or two-tube transmitter. It's very low power. It runs about 2 watts, and it uses a 6C4 oscillator, just a single triode oscillator, and it's crystal control. As you can see, you plug the crystal in the crystal socket up here, and it has a 6AK6 final amplifier, RF amplifier. And being that the plate voltage is about 150 volts, it only gets about maybe close to 2 watts. But it's just a fun little QRP transmitter. Now I'd like to show you some other equipment. You'll probably recognize this as a Heathkit HR1680 receiver. Heathkit made a transmitter also that looked the very same. It was a combination. It was called the HT1680, I believe. And this receiver just flopped them off, and it quit on me. So I built a little transmitter in it. And here's the crystal socket, and it uses a 6C4 oscillator, and it's monoband only. It's just 40 meters. The VFO, of course, doesn't work, and I use my VXO in that also as well. It has a 6C4 oscillator and a 6VQ5 amplifier. So I try to use a different RF amplifier. So, there you go. And this shows you it works. Now, this is an interesting transmitter. It was put out by National Radio Institute when we had, back in the 50s, we had correspondence school to get your commercial FCC license or your amateur radio license. It was like a correspondence course. They sent you these kits along with the study material, and you built the transmitter and you built the receiver. Got the matching receiver way over on the other side. But this is the Konar, and it's kit form. It's a 1-tube transmitter. Uses a 60Q6 master power oscillator. We call it the MPO. And I've modified this too, because back then novices probably didn't pay too much attention to where their signals sound, but they were crystal control. This thing chirps like a banshee, so I went inside and put a voltage regulator circuit in it, and I had to pull the 60Q6 final out because the power supply in there was not hefty enough or strong enough to operate the transmitter without pulling down the the oscillator, which made it chirp. So I replaced the 60Q6 with a 6L6, and of course it runs less power, but it's very clean if you use a 6L6. This receiver I got recently at Hamfest, and it's the Helicrafters S107. When I first saw it, I said, well, this can't be much more of an improvement over the S120 or the S38. But it is. It's a 10 tube receiver. I was surprised, and that's including the rectifier cord. And it has, instead of a BFO, it does not use a big frequency oscillator, but it does have a product detector, which makes it very good receiver for single sideband and CW. Although you can't change the pitch, but you can change the pitch by moving the band spread. So it turned out to be a very nice receiver. I did completely recap it, in other words put capacitors in it, and painted the case, and it looks good. It looked pretty ragged when I got it. This right here is an old Navy signal generator, if you remember what it looked like. It came in a big old case and had a battery compartment on below it. But I made this into a regenerator receiver for 40 meters, and with this vernier dial, it is an excellent receiver. And it's I've used it. I mean, I'll tell you, I've used it on the air. It's a little bit tricky to work, but you got to balance all these controls: regen, audio, and antenna tuner, and audio gain. Oh, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. So anyway, that is a cool thing to use. It uses this. I have just a 2 stages. It's a 2 tube 12AU7 with the 6AK5 audio amplifier. It works very nice. It'll drive headphones, or if you get one of these external audio speakers that you can get quite common with, that's the receiver right there. Of course, the band is dead right now. 40 meters is dead as a wedge, and that's all it's made for. The coil's made for 40 meters. That's just to show you. Of course, it hisses. That's the way all regen receivers do. But when you get a signal in, it's just like, you know, a VFO, because it'll beat against the incoming CW signal. This is, as you recognize, is the old Heathkit DX60B. It's got a different panel meter on it. Somebody had replaced the original meter. Probably went bad on them. But it's a matching VFO. Everything works I have here. And this is the matching receiver, which is the HR10 receiver. A lot of the novices and generals use this rig because it works CW and AM phone. Of course, back in its day, there was quite a bit of AM phone on the air, and I used a DX40 and I had a blast in 1964. So even though there was a lot of sideband stuff on, but I was able to enjoy it. But I did work mostly CW. All right. Okay. Okay, now this is the Helicrafters SX111. John, you'll recognize this receiver because you had it with the matching transmitter, the HT37. Well, the HT37 long burned up another transformer in it. But I sold it at Hamfest. But I kept the receiver. It's a very good receiver, handband only. This is a this is a Kenwood TS520. My cameraman over here, John in K4IBZ, he used to own it. He sold it to me. This is a National NCX3. It's a tri-band transceiver. Works AM sideband and CW. However, it was not made for CW. That was just an afterthought. But I do use it on CW with a separate receiver and a TR switch, which I have here. You hear that too. So I'm using a Kenwood receiver over here. This is another DX60. Another, the unique thing about this DX60 here, this is the very first one, and it has the color scheme of the old Heathkit Apache. It's a two-tone green. However, this is a paler green than the newer DX60B. And of course, you see this the recessed lighted panel meter, which is what the Apache had, and so forth like that. So these are very hard to find. And of course, this is the HG10 VFO. This is the DX60B. Now, if you notice, this has chrome knobs on it. The reason it does is because I took all the knobs off of an old Heathkit rig that I had, and that didn't work very well. It was a Pawnee and another Mohican or something like that. Two different rigs that were VHF I didn't really care about. So I got all these knobs and collected them, so I started putting them on here, dressing them up. Same thing goes for this receiver here. It's an HR10, HG10B VFO. We will go over here, the Kenwood Twins. They came out in they came out in the early 70s, but with the first model, was just plain $5.99, and then went $5.99 A, B, C, D, and the D models were the very last run, and this happens to be a D model. I bought them used, and I've got two sets of them. On the other side of the shack, I've got another set of them. Alright, I'm going to cut it. Okay, let's go on the top shelf here. These are Swans. This is a Swan Signet 260s. This is the very first one that came out. Very, very basic. This is a tri-bander made by Swan. It's a Swan 240. And it's a transceiver, but I'm using it as a receiver because I got this out of a $1 junk box, you know, just for $1. Had no tubes in it, but everything was intact. So I said, this is going to make a wonderful receiver. So I brought it home, put all the tubes in it except for the, the modulator tube and the final amplifier. Built a power supply, what you see here, just to power the receiver. And it's a Jim Dandy receiver. And then here's a Swan Signet 270, and it's much more than this one, as you can tell. It works upper and lower sideband and CW. This is if you recognize that's a 10-tick Century 21. Over here, over here is a very rare transmitter from Hammerlin. As you know, Hammerlin made receivers, a lot of good receivers, but this is their first attempt at a transmitter, and this is a very good transmitter, by the way. It's single sideband, AM, CW, upper and lower sideband. You could go crystal control if you wanted to. There's a crystal slots there, and then this is an old Hammerlin HQ140X receiver. They all, by the way, work. Everything works. And this is a little bit newer, HQ150. And I'm using these. I've got these slave to this transmitter. Okay. Again, we're on another operating position here in the corner of the shack. Over here, this is a Helicrafters SX. Let me look at it. SX100 Mark III, which is a very nice receiver. It's general coverage. That was the very first receiver I saw in my Elmer's shack. Fell in love with it, actually. Right here is just a receiver. It's made by Lafayette, model HA350. It's all tubes. That's all tubes, by the way. Here's a novice transmitter of the 1950s, 1957 time frame, DX20. Below it, you'll see the DX40. Now, this is the very first phone transmitter I started out with when I passed my general test. DX40 is wonderful. Hammerlin 100, HQ100. It's a general coverage receiver. And are you ready to go over here? Now, right here's another HG10 VFO, which I use with this transmitter and this one. Here's another set of the twins, right there. I like them so much. I got two sets of them. This is the other Konar, which is a matching receiver for that transmitter we saw on the other side. However, the receiver I broke the band switch. It fell on the floor and it broke the band switch. So what I did was made a regen receiver in there, that my 2-tube regen, and it worked very well for that. This is an antenna tuner I built using the Heathkit SWR bridge that's built into it. Get over this way, John. If you can get it in there, I'll just get out of the way here. Okay, and if you notice this, this is a regen receiver made by Tentec. It's a regenerative receiver, and I built it inside this case. This is what it looked like originally, so I just built it inside the case. I added a few more things. This is band spread, RF gain, transmit transmit receive switch. In other words, kill the B plus on it, so I could use the transmitter. Right over here is a Nightkit T1 Night T60. It's a 6 through 80 meter transmitter. A lot of the novices had them back in the 60s. Here again, we've got a DX60 160 realistic receiver, which looks very similar to the one on the other side. Now down here are the novice technician twins, they call them. The Drake 2NT, which meant novice technician. It came out in the 70s. Here's a matching receiver for it, the Drake 2C. Over here, you'll recognize a Drake 2B receiver with the 2BQ Q multiplier speaker. Up here we have a Helicrafters SX71, which is a very good receiver, by the way. And I'll recap this one, but I want to get new capacitors throughout. I just changed the filter capacitors so it drifts a little bit. Now we get into more modern equipment over here. When I say modern, now I think John used to own these too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have two of these. These are the Yaesu FT707s. Now John and I horse traded a lot. So I've got these two, and the power supply, original power supply is down here, but it went kaput. So I've got this Astron power supply to power it. This is the newest radio. It's the Yaesu FT450. You'll probably recognize. And this right here is a Yaesu FT7. It's QRP. It runs 10 watts, a 5-band transceiver. Coming over here, you'll see a very pretty receiver. That is a Helicrafters SX42. It covers FM, commercial FM broadcast frequencies, AM, all your shortwave frequencies. It's a general cover sheet. Beautiful, beautiful audio. Now this here is very interesting because it was not working. I repainted the case. This is original color. These are not original knobs, of course, but I cleaned it up and I built a regen receiver in it. Can you hear it? See, there it goes. That's what regen receivers do. They hiss and they act like a VFO because it transmits a signal, basically. But I made a nice little regen receiver out of it. It's 2 tubes plus I have an additional amplifier stage, so it does a lot. It does very well, and I've used it to communicate with. This right here is a Heathkit Comanche receiver. It had a matching transmitter, but I don't have the matching transmitter anymore, but it does work very well. It was mobile. Back then, cars were big and they had a big transmission hump, so you had a transmitter receiver sitting on the transmission hump. And the transmitter ran 90 watts AM, and they also made a single sideband version of it. The single sideband receiver was called the HR1, or I think it was HR1. Transmitter was HT10 or HT1, I can't remember. It goes back that far. That's it, basically the Shack radio history. I'm going to show you one more thing. If you look at this is just a cabinet. I picked this up because it's unique. There's not very many of these made, and if you look at it, it looks like an S38E panel, and it is. That's what it is. But evidently they had a lot of the chassis and the cabinets for the S85, and they decided to build a better receiver based on the S38, but however, it's using a power transformer instead of the AC/DC arrangement. So it has 6-volt filament tubes in it, power transformers. But I just got it just been gutted, so it's very unique. Okay, if you notice, John's doing a sweep of the entire shack here right now. And I want you to see my other interests and hobbies. I collect die-cast model cars. I collect replica radios here. These are all replicas. Some are original. You see the aircraft? I don't know if you can see that or not. There's more replica radios, more die-cast cars, and when we get over to this side, John, the larger models. But I've enjoyed doing this. So this is the wrap up of the shack, and I hope you enjoy the video.